Today, I'm talking about what I did all week down in Baja, talking about the roadmap to your soul's unfoldment. Oh, here we go. You guys have got it already for me. The roadmap to your soul's unfoldment. So remember maps before GPS? Remember when you had to pull out a map to figure out where you were going and how you would navigate the road? When I moved here to California, we still had a TomTom. I remember TomToms? It was a separate device in your car to figure out how you would get around because everything was new to me. Everything was different, and I didn't know how to navigate the terrain under my feet. But I remember being on road trips with my father and my family in the car, and we'd have the map all spread out in a station wagon, right? Trying to figure out how we were going to go. Well, your soul, your very being, is trying to figure that out right now too. And there's no GPS, God positioning system for us right here and the planet of how to navigate this thing we call life, this journey of, talk about, cloverleaf interchanges, right? Between medical, between growing older, between relationships, between families of origins, between religion, between what goes on in our government and in the governments and the wars of the world. How do we navigate to a place of serenity? How do we navigate to a place of purpose and meaning? How do we make the really difficult transitions from adolescence to adulthood, adulthood to elders, and then the biggest transition from this physical being back to our trueness, our wholeness as source, as spiritual beings. So, for me, my spiritual practices, and then when I discovered unity, has always been that compass, that roadmap that has enabled me to figure it out one step at a time. And part of that was to realize that there's not competing entities for control. There is only one power, one presence, active in my life and in the world, God. There's lots of other noise, and there's lots of confusion, but there's only one power and one presence. I'm going to invite Callie to take us on a journey of understanding that. The first thing when you pull out a map is to orient yourself in the map. And this first principle is what does that for me.
One power, one power, one power. There's one power invisible, and you see it everywhere and every day. One power indescribable, and you speak of it with every word you say. Mysterious till you know the truth, as simple as love inside of you. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Mahaula, angels' wings or heaven's door. But whatever name you give it, it's all empowered when we forget that in the heart we're all the same. We'll remember once we close our eyes to see that such distances were never meant to be. Call it love, call it spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, Hashem, our heaven's door. It's Muhammad, it's your mind, it's your soul, it's your sign, it's the universe, it's magic, Mother Earth or Father Time. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? Whatever name you give it, it's the air that we breathe. It's the power of love in you and me. Oh,
One power,
oh,
one power.
one power, one power, one power. It's a moment of creation. It's the everlasting peace. It's the freedom of forgiveness. It's the sweetness of release. It's the joy of inspiration. It's the sunshine on your face. It's the birthright of all nations. It's the boundlessness of space. It's the beauty of a baby, the serenity of sleep. Oh, it's the anger we abandon, for it's love so deep. It's love.
One power,
Power of love that lives forever in you and me. It's the power of love in you and me.
Amen. Amen.
Callie Carvajal. Woo. Thank you, sweetie. Sorry. Woo. Yeah. Yeah. So here we are. We got our map oriented. We know there's one power and one presence active in the universe in our lives. We know that no matter what, where we come from, there's this one power. But where's true north? And what are we, our individual souls, supposed to do? You know, when I was a kid and growing up, they talked about our souls in school. I went to Catholic schools, and they talked about souls. And they talked about sin as black marks on our soul. And I remember to this day that when I speak of soul, I have to remember that was a childlike understanding of my soul being dirtied, having scuff marks on it, or that my actions somehow diminished my soul. And as an adult and as a truth seeker, I get to have a new understanding and interpretation of what soul means. So whatever you came with here today, or you come here with today as you're listening to this online later or to right now with us, we can leave that understanding of our childhood in our childhood and come to a new understanding of what our soul is and how pure and special our soul is. Right? No matter what we have done, you are not anything you have ever done. I've said that before. Do anybody remember it? You are not anything you've ever done. You're not the mistakes you've made. You're not the errors along the way. You are a magnificent expression of divine love. You are part of the one power and the one presence. And your soul is magnificent. Right? So what I mean when I say soul today is this. Soul is the intersection of your eternal spirit and your earthly persona. So let's unpack that. Where the two meet. I believe we are eternal beings. Unity teaches that we are eternal beings, meaning we existed before this body existed. And we have taken this body, and again, this weekend, I got a great image of it as someone shared. It's like a rented car, our bodies, right? We get in them, we sign up, we get in this car, and it's our vehicle for this road trip, right? Again, we're on the road map, but our eternal spirit is what gets in. That thing that existed before this body, and it's the thing that will exist after this body is done. That part of us that comes from the oneness, that will return to the oneness while we inhabit this moment of seeming separation. So, I decided to rent a Tesla. Or a Maserati, whichever you want. I know Shantaria, you've got yours too, your special cars. So, right, we can all rent the vehicle. And that vehicle brings us lessons. And we put on masks in these vehicles. We put on personas to help us navigate because we're a man, because we're a woman, because we're a gay man, because we're a trans man, because whatever this life has in store for us, we have to navigate our families first, our schools second, the friends next door third, then into the work world. And then it gets really interesting, right? And then we navigate marriage and relationships and children and grandchildren and divorce and death. And we put on different masks, different personas for all of them. And they have value and they're teaching us lessons. So your eternal spirit and your persona come together. And that persona is influencing the eternal spirit because we're here to learn lessons, folks. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, said, we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are what? Spiritual beings having a human experience, right? So our human experience is teaching us something and influencing the larger truth of who we are and what we will take from the lessons of this life when it's all done. For me, that's soul. And the roadmap to your soul's expression is to understand that both have value. Who you really are, your eternal spirit, and your persona, the masks and the personalities we take on, all have value and all are to be honored. But the culmination, the intersection of the two is where it gets really juicy. Because that's where we get challenged to show up as something higher and better than the rental car. We get challenged to show up as something that is wiser than the clunker we rented, right? It's like they all have a reason. And we get to step into it right here and right now. So today we're going to do service a little different. We're going to go into a meditation here in a minute. Because what we need to determine is what our soul wants, what our soul is here to express, and know what our purpose of our soul is so that it can manifest more fully. And there's a great theologian that I've shared this quote before, and I love it because it's, ask yourself what the world needs and go do that. Don't ask yourself what the world needs and go do that. But what the world needs, you see, that's wrong up there. So I'm going to say it. Don't ask what the world needs and go do that. But what the world needs is people who have come alive. Okay? What the world needs is people who have come alive. Are we ready to be the people that have come alive in this moment? I invite you to get comfortable in your seat. I invite you to get comfortable at home, online, to let my voice become your voice. To let this moment be all that there is. I also am going to ask you to have your bulletin, if you're here in the room, handy with a pen, because I'm going to ask you some questions in this meditation that you might want to take notes on. And if you're at home, to grab a piece of paper, an envelope, and a pen as we settle in for the calm.
In the calm of the silence, I am listening now. I am still, I am quiet, I am whole. In the calm of this silence, I am listening now. I am still, I am quiet, I am whole. In the consciousness with divine idea, deep in my heart, I affirm what I hear. In the calm of the silence, I am listening now. I am still, I am quiet, I am whole.
I am still. I am quiet. I am that I am. I invite you to take a deep breath and to feel that breath filling your lungs and your heart space. And notice as you exhale how easy that exhale is. Once again, to notice as you breathe that the chair you're sitting in is holding you. To notice that the room you're in is protecting you. To notice that your needs right here and right now are all being met. In the stillness of this moment, all is well. I am still, I am calm, I am ready. Ready to remember, ready to know the truth, why I'm here. Truth of who I really am. Right here in this moment, I invite you to recall a time, to remember a time when you were truly seen for who you are, when people saw you and honored you, celebrated your very being, and things seemed to be working effortlessly, holistically. In that moment, you are about your true work, your true purpose here. Remember that time. And if there's a word or a phrase that makes you recall what it felt like to be in that zone, that flow, write that down so you can remember the truth of who you really are. Someone knows because they're calling and saying, yes, that's the time. And then I invite you to remember a time when you were so excited, what we might call a peak experience, where things you had worked for so hard in this life just seemed to come into manifestation. Everything started to click together and to fall into place, that your heart was soaring and that your body was electrified and alive. Remember that peak experience and what it was that brought you to that moment. Remember the truth of who you were and are. That understanding. And if there's something you need to make a mental note about, to remember that heightened synergy, that completeness and wholeness, I invite you to write that down. And then finally, I invite you to remember a time when you were doing something you thought you couldn't do, that you thought was beyond your skill set, beyond your training, beyond your knowledge, and still you did it anyway. And by the mere act of stepping out and doing it, you became it. You learned it, you mastered it, you conquered it. What was that like? How did that feel in your body to be that brave, courageous, innovative, and bold? And notice if there's something you want to save about that, to remember, to have up for instant recall. Your soul's purpose is to be in action in this world, to be actively participating with other spiritual beings in their human experience, to be actively involved in creating something that's never existed before because of your unique gifts and talents. So your real calling, your real purpose is somewhere in these peak and heightened experiences. So here in the silence, I ask you to recall the words, the active verbs, the phrases that identify your soul's calling. If words pop up, don't dismiss them. Use them. Hold on to them. Write them down. right here and right now, you hold the key to your magnificent future. Feel it, know it, allow it in the stillness.
In the calm of the silence, I am listening now. I am still, I am quiet, I am whole. I now stand a spirit, holy divine, claiming my peace and the life I design. Oh, in the calm of the silence, I am listening now. I am still, I am quiet, I am whole. In the calm of the silence, I am listening now. I am still, I am quiet, I am whole. I am still, I am quiet, I am whole. So still, quiet, I am whole.
As you come back into your bodies, if you haven't taken notes, I invite you, if you want to take some now. I think if we look back on our lives, reach a certain point, a certain age, and look back on our lives, we will see patterns. Some good, some bad, right? And releasing the negative patterns or the ones that no longer serve us is really essential. But also, I think you can look back on your life and find the patterns for your purpose, for why you're here, and what you're here to learn, do, and be, who you're here to be. So my example is this. When I showed up at the retreat, someone asked me, how did you get from being in show business to minister, right? And it's like, my answer to it is very clear. It's like when I went into theater as a young man, I went because the shows I saw and were attracted to were transformative. They were about the human experience. And I went into a theater and had a collective experience with other people that transformed me and the other people in the room. And that process was really magnetic to me. I wanted to be part of it. I wanted to learn how to do it. So I joined the theater so that I could be one of the creators of those experiences that everyone shared when they were an audience member. That's what I do today in my life, is I create experiences that transform our lives, that people come together and we collectively interact with music and words and emotion and feeling and stories to transform our lives and to make it better, to make the world a better place. So I've only done one thing. I've only done one thing in my life, even though it has many different titles and roles. As a parent, what I do is to work with people to find out, work with the kids I've fostered or parented or gunkled, excuse me, right? Gunkled to make them have an experience of life that is transformative and different. And I love watching them grow and shine and achieve and then do the same thing. So what's that for you? What has been the real thing that has drawn you to almost every job that you've had. Now, yes, of course, all along the way, we've had survival jobs where we worked as a cashier or as a waiter, but when you're in who you're really here to be, when you're really in your soul's purpose, you can be a waiter, you can be a cashier, you can be a janitor. It'd be about your purpose, your life's journey. Your purpose and your soul's purpose transcends any role you may be playing in the moment. You're playing a role of congregant here right now, listening, right? But what you're really here to do is to be a member and share your purpose with everyone else in the room so that they have an experience that changes their whole life. And what it really boils down to is the one I always share, is your playing small doesn't serve the world. Right? That you're pretending like you're not here on purpose, for a purpose, doesn't serve the lifting of the planet. We all claim we want a better world. We want something different to happen. Well, living into your soul's purpose is how we make the world a better place. How uniquely your purpose is blends with someone else's unique purpose, and we all lift up the planet. It happens here on Sunday when we come together online and we come together in the room where we create the strength we need. We listen to each other. We lift each other so that we can go about our work in other roles, in other parts of our lives, and be different, to live on purpose, living out our full soul's expression. Now, there are people in Unity and in the New Thought community and in the world in general who believe in soul agreements. Has anyone ever heard of soul agreements? Oh, a couple of people have, right? Soul agreements are this idea. Ellen Davenport, one of our ministers who wrote the 5 principles, talks about them in that book. Soul agreements are this idea that as spirits in the other side, before we inhabited these bodies, that we were existing as a group of people, and we decided to incarnate together as a group to learn a lesson. I'm, going to react with you. You'll be in my family. We'll have this. We'll get married. And we'll teach each other these lessons. And that we do incarnate in this body. We choose to forget, and then we learn this lesson. It really helps a lot of people. I've talked to a lot of people about it. When they're going through a really rough time, when someone they love has died, when someone they loved deeply leaves or betrays them, and they can remember and latch on to that they're here for their soul's journey, and maybe they had a soul agreement with this person to learn this lesson together, right? Well, that may be true for them. I don't know. There's some great music going on somewhere. Am I hearing things? Have I really transcended? Okay. All right. Someone's phone is going off. All right. Nope, it's still going. All right. Are we done? All right. Those soul lessons may be true. May be absolutely true. I don't know. I have no proof of them. But what I do know is that the only way to learn the lesson is to be in the moment. To be in the human moment of that lesson, in that relationship. And my soul, fully present for it, can learn the lesson there. And that's the key. So if that idea and that concept of soul agreements helps you, great. Fabulous. We all need whatever we need to get through this life. But know that really what you're here to do is to shift your soul, to shift your awareness, your understanding, your being, interacting with your eternal spirit to create something that's never existed before. A decade into being your senior minister, I finally feel like I can stand here and say, this is who I am, period. No, yes. blue hair and all, right? That this is, yes, and blue nails. This is me. This is who I am, and this is who I've come here to be. That's what I wish for all of us in every area of our lives, to be radically authentic, exquisitely vulnerable, and tremendously whole. That's possible when you take the trip to find what your soul's purpose is and to live into it. So in your bulletin again, we have our connection cards. And on the connection card, there are spiritual practices. And our spiritual practices this week are a continuation of this road trip to our soul's expression. So I invite you to pull out your spiritual connection card if you're online, or if you're here in the room. It's being put up for you in the chat, or you can click the button if you're on our website. And the first one is to notice what makes you come alive. What lights you up and makes you want to go out and be part of the world? For some people, it's animals. For some people, it's singing and music. For some people, it is learning. What is it that lights you up? What are you really here to do? That's a calling from the divine, a seed planted by divine mind. Track what you are consciously and consistently drawn to. Notice what pulls at your heartstrings. Notice where you want to go, where places you want to go, people you want to be with. Notice that, because it is part of who your soul is longing to be with. And make sure it's part of your journey. Live in to that purpose. Baby steps are not small for the baby. Baby steps are life-changing events. So live into that purpose however you can. If music is your thing, if singing is your thing, join the choir. Misa's right there. They're starting up choir again right now. If being a student and learning about this and the spiritual teaching is, sign up for any of the class. Come to one of the workshops we offer that cost nothing. Join us online. Go find it. It's all out there. The internet is not only for porn. Right? There's a song about that. It's like from a Broadway show. Sorry, couldn't resist the joke. All right. And the last one is co-create. So when we say co-create, we know that we do nothing alone. That the universal energy, that one power and that one presence is what is active and working in our lives to create a life of abundant purpose. And we co-create with everyone else in the room and everyone else on the planet to co-create that abundant life, using it all. If any of those spiritual practices resonate with you, I invite you to put it on your connection card and send it in to me. And it's also in your bulletin here, so you can take it on home with you and remember. With that, I'm going to invite David back up, and I say to you, you are a magnificent expression of the divine. I am honored to be on this journey with you. Namaste.
So it is.